International Media TV. Television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnnie Burrell. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, this is Sierra Bailey here with Bayview News and InternationalMediaTV.com. We're here at the Super Bowl breakfast this morning. Things are getting underway. Program's going to get started real soon. We've got the Panthers mascot outside taking selfies with all the guests waiting to arrive. The stars were out last night, and pretty soon this room is going to be filled with stars this morning. I don't know about you guys out there for tomorrow, but I've got my prediction ready. I think both teams are hungry, but I'm going to have to go with the Broncos because, you know, they had a loss a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, and they're back at it again, ready to go home with the ring.
This is the first time the area has hosted a Super Bowl since way back in Super Bowl 19 when the San Francisco 49ers beat the Miami Dolphins.
All right, glad to hear there's some 49er fans out here. How about some Raider fans? We have some Raider fans out? Well, of course, this morning we're not here to talk about the Raiders, the 49ers, the X's and the O's, any of that about tomorrow's game.
And we won't be talking about teams, moving cities, or not moving cities either. Rather, we'll hear some funny stories, relive great Super Bowl moments, and celebrate character in the NFL.
And we will present the BART STARR Award, so buckle your seatbelts. You're in for a great morning.
During his 12 NFL seasons, Brent Jones was one of the most consistent and productive tight ends in all of football. Playing for the San Francisco 49ers, Jones caught 417 passes for over 5,000 yards and 33 touchdowns in his career. In postseason play, he added 60 receptions and 5 touchdowns, and was a key part of 3 49ers Super Bowl champions. Jones was selected to the Pro Bowl in 1992, 93, 94, and 95, and was named All-Pro in 1992 and 93. Following his retirement after the 97 season, Jones has worked in television as an NFL game analyst and studio commentator. At the 1998 Super Bowl breakfast in San Diego, Jones was selected as a co-recipient of the BART STARR Award. Your Master of Ceremonies, Brent Jones.
Well, good morning, all you 49er fans. And football fans from across the country. And Raider fans. The rich history of the BART STARR Award includes 12 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, with at least 8 others who should be joining them in the near future. But this award is special because it's not just about excellence on the football field, but it's about leadership, character, integrity, and influence. All the hallmark of the man for which this award is named. At this time, I'd like to introduce Corwin Anthony, the executive director.
My greatest football memory is being coached by Coach Lombardi. He was a fabulous gentleman. He was a true leader. He personified it in everything that he did. We knew from the day he walked in and held his first meeting with us, it was going to change. He said, "Gentlemen, we are going to relentlessly chase perfection, knowing full well we won't catch it because nothing is perfect. Because in the process, we will catch excellence."
I get choked up every year at this, but I'm not going to apologize for that because it is an honor to be able to pay tribute to those in the National Football League who represent something that our great coach, Coach Lombardi, said years ago. What a wonderful gathering. Turbulent 60s.
He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's becoming increasingly difficult to be tolerant of a society which has sympathy only for the misfits, the maladjusted, the criminal, the loser. Have sympathy for them? Yes. Assist them? Absolutely. But don't you think it's time we stood and cheered the doer, the leader, the winner? Someone who looks for something extra to do for their God, their family, their country, their community? Word football is not in there. He's talking about life.
Some people come into our lives and quickly go like waves, briefly touching the shore. Some people stay for a while and give us a deeper understanding of what is truly important in this life. They touch our souls. They leave footprints on our hearts, and we will never, ever be the same.
There were 16 seconds left, and you're at the 1-yard line, and you call timeout, and you go over to the sidelines to talk to Coach Lombardi. Share with us what went on in that conversation.
I said to the coach, I said, there's nothing wrong with the play. I said, the backs can't get to the line of scrimmage because they're down trying to start quickly, and the ground is as hard as this. And I said, so they're slipping and sliding. I said, I'm standing upright. I can shuffle my feet and lunge in. And all he said, well, then run it. Let's get the hell out of here. Excellence marks a search for an ideal, long after mere usefulness has been achieved. It's never an accident, but rather exposes an enviable work ethic, noble ambitions, and a unique commitment to God, family, and others.
What an amazing gentleman. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Corwin Anthony, Executive Director of the Pro Ministry for Athletes in Action. Corwin, why don't you come on up here?
Good morning. Each year, the centerpiece of the Super Bowl breakfast has been the presentation of the BART STARR Award, an honor that has become one of the most prestigious in all the NFL. Bart and Cherry have been great role models in the world of sports. People of all ages and in all walks of life have been inspired by their example of character and their commitment to the community. Even though Bart and Cherry cannot be here this morning, they have chosen a perfect pair to honor our recipient in their stead. Tony Dungy is a Super Bowl winning coach, best-selling author, speaker, and popular television commentator. And Bart Starr Jr. is, of course, the son of Bart and Cherry. Bart, Tony, come join me up here on the stage. Well, Tony, you have been a part of this breakfast for many years and many times with Bart. So share a little bit about his legacy from your perspective.
Well, I was 11 years old when Bart Starr was the quarterback in Super Bowl I, and it was just a special feeling to watch him play, but then to come into the league and realize it wasn't the play on the field, it wasn't the 2 Super Bowl MVPs and that made him who he really was. It was the outstanding person, the outstanding character. So fast forward 30 years later, and I become head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I took that lesson and I challenged our players with it and said, you know what, we're hired to win a Super Bowl, and that's what we want to do. But if that's all we do, it won't be very meaningful. It's what we do in the community, what we do for the Lord that people are going to remember. And because of that, I think, because of Bart's legacy, I actually coached 5 men that won this award because they took it to heart. So that's the impact Bart Starr had on me.
Thank you, Coach. It's pretty special. Yes. Bart Jr.
Good
wow.
morning.
Thanks for being here again.
Thank you.
You know, you have a special message, I know, from your dad and your mom for our recipient. Go ahead and share that with us.
I do. Thomas, I think the greatest way we could honor you is actually to talk about some individuals that you will someday meet in the future, maybe a couple decades from now. You'll meet perhaps an architect, whose greatest design is trying to figure out ways to improve his community. You'll meet a nurse who helps heal the hearts and souls of those who've been injured, those who've suffered catastrophic setbacks. You'll meet an attorney. The attorney will quite likely do pro bono work for single mothers, such as the one that helped raise this remarkable man. You'll meet real estate developers whose greatest buildings are schools for individuals, young men, young women who need a chance in inner cities to get a good education. You'll meet all of them. The reason you can't meet them today is these individuals are 5, 8, 10, 12 years old. But you'll have a chance. Within a couple decades, you will remember 20 years from now that this gentleman was laying the groundwork for a better society, unselfishly devoting himself to a cause greater than himself. And that is why my parents are so honored to have him here today to receive this award, something we shall never forget as a family. And Thomas, thank you so much for elevating what this means even further. On the 50th anniversary of Athletes in Action, we could not find a more worthy recipient. Thank you so much.
In his 11-year career with the Carolina Panthers, Thomas Davis has made a big impact, both on and off the field. After overcoming 3 ACL injuries to the same knee, Davis has played some of the finest football of his career during the past 3 years. He earned first-team All-Pro honors and was selected to the Pro Bowl this year, after racking up 105 tackles and 4 interceptions, forcing 4 fumbles and recording 5.5 sacks. Recognized as the 2014 recipient of the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, Davis has impacted the Charlotte community through his Thomas Davis Defending Dreams Foundation. Since its inception in 2008, the foundation has provided free programs that enhance the quality of life for more than 2,000 underprivileged children and their families each year, and distributed more than $500,000 in aid. The foundation's key program, the Youth Leadership Academy, offers mentoring programs for low-income middle school students and teaches life skills and leadership. The foundation also hosts an annual youth football camp for boys and girls, a back-to-school supply and backpack giveaway, a Thanksgiving meal at a battered women's shelter, and a Christmas gift giveaway. Also involved with the American Heart Association, the Second Harvest Food Bank, the area's Children's Hospital, and the Muscular Dystrophy Association, he has made helping underserved youth his passion. Thomas Davis is the recipient of the 2016 BART STARR Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think most of you know in the championship game 2 weeks ago, Thomas broke his arm, and he said, I will be playing in the Super Bowl. It's not going to stop me because I need to be there for my team. And you can see from that video, he's taking the same approach with the community of Charlotte. Nothing is going to stop me. I need to be there for my community. Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the 2016 BART STARR Award, Thomas Davis.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Davis is now going to share some words of wisdom with us. Thomas, the podium is yours.
How y'all doing this morning? Just want to really start out by, thanking God for being so amazing. With all that's going on in my life and all the work that he's done to make me the person that I am, I mean, it's truly amazing. I also want to thank the breakfast luncheon for allowing us to be here today. Not breakfast luncheon, the Super Bowl breakfast for allowing us to be here today. Truly an honor. I want to thank the Starr family for this award and allowing me to, just be the recipient of it this year. Thank my peers that voted for this award. This is an award that's truly voted on by your peers in the league, and it's nice to know what the guys around the league think about you as a player, as a person, and I cannot be more proud to be the recipient of this award. Next, I would like to thank our team owner, Mr. Jerry Richardson. So, I don't know, a lot of you probably don't know me, but I get emotional when I'm talking about things that are passionate and mean a lot to me. So, bear with me. About 4 or 5 years ago, I sat in Mr. Richardson's office, and it was after my 3rd ACL tear to the right knee, and excuse me. Mr. Richardson had to make a decision, him and Coach Rivera, on whether or not they would allow me to continue my NFL career. When you think about it, think about injuries in this game and the way things happen. You don't hear a guy coming back or having an opportunity to come back and play this game after going through what I had gone through. So, with all that this award represents, having good character, being a good leader, I know in my heart without a doubt, because I am a person that exemplifies those things, that has good character, that's a good leader in our locker room, that's a big reason why I had the opportunity to continue to play. I don't take that for granted. And to this day, I'm so thankful for Mr. Richardson and the entire Panther organization for believing in me. Because when I think about the 4 years that have happened since that meeting, how good the Lord has been to me. It makes me emotional. It makes me sit back and just want to reflect on how good he's been. Just thinking about, overcoming those injuries, playing at a high level, doing what people said couldn't be done. All the while continuing to do the things that we do in the community with my foundation. My foundation is the Thomas Davis Defending Dreams Foundation. And you don't know a lot about us. We try to do as much as we can to help families in our community. My wife, she's the executive director of my foundation. She's sitting right here. My kids are sitting right here. And as the executive director of my foundation, of our foundation, she is one of the executive directors that don't take in a dime. She don't get paid a cent for what she does. And with that, and in doing that, every dime, every single cent that we are able to raise for the kids and the families in the community goes directly back to the community. Because we feel that if we're able to do that, we can impact and reach so many people. Because that's the goal. As an NFL player, we have a platform, we have an opportunity to give to these kids, to show these kids. I have 4 kids right here that are sitting with my wife, and I feel like as their father, it's important for me to be a good example to them. And in order for me to be a good example to them, I gotta conduct myself in a way that I can always be proud of, to say, hey, I set an example for my kids. I set an example for my boys on how to be a man. I set an example for my daughters on how a mother's supposed to, how a wife or how a mother or a daughter's supposed to be treated by the way that I treat their mother. And I feel that that's important. I feel that that goes a long way in life. And you hear so many athletes that turn down the opportunity to be a role model. I don't understand that. I don't get that. We're in this position for a reason. We've been blessed with these talents. We've been blessed with this opportunity to be able to take stage in front of millions. It's important for us to use that the right way. And if you go out and you do things in your community, you make a difference, it's not hard to do things the right way. It's not. You find someone to hold you accountable for your actions. And I talked about it earlier. When I met Mr. Richardson, I was a 21-year-old kid that didn't fully get it. You know, I was drafted in the first round, and I was excited to be a part of a organization that I felt like was on the rise, that was doing good things, that just made it to the Super Bowl 2 years prior, and I just felt good about where I was. I didn't fully understand until I had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Richardson and had to go to his house and sit beside that clock. And if you know Mr. Richardson, you know you sit by that clock, you know you're in for a long day. But fortunate enough for me, you know, having that one opportunity to sit down and have that conversation and really get to know Mr. Richardson as the person, and you know what he expected from us as players, and from a standpoint of being a productive citizen, I think that really has allowed me to continue to be accountable for my actions and everything that I do, and making a difference in the community. So again, Mr. Richardson, thank you, and I appreciate it, and thank you guys here. Thank you.
You know there's a lot of love for you when your mascot, Sir Purr, comes out and gets up at 6 in the morning to come to the breakfast. Thomas, congratulations. What a spectacular gentleman and ball player you are. Folks, you can see Thomas is having to get back. It's quite remarkable just watching Thomas this year and watching all that he's done. The thing that actually stands out most for me about Thomas was in that Seattle game, he was on the special hands team at the end of the game. The Seahawks were trying to kick an onside kick. And in all my life, when you're on a hands team, it's always the wide receivers, the tight ends, of course, and then maybe a running back or two. And if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, maybe a defensive back, because we all know those guys can't catch. But never in my life have I seen a linebacker on the hands team. As the key guy, he attacks the ball, recovers it, and I stopped and I started yelling. I rewound that thing 5 times. Are you kidding me? That was Thomas Davis? What is he doing on the field? He broke the cardinal rule, and a lot of folks in the audience don't know that, the cardinal rule, but usually when your kid's about 5 years old and he loves sports, you throw him a couple balls. If he catches them, put him on offense for the rest of his life. If he drops it, he's on defense. And So Thomas broke the cardinal rule. But what a great gentleman, and what a great BART STAR Award winner. And as we said, just to put this in perspective, the Panthers are staying about an hour from us this morning. So Thomas and the Davis family had to get up at 6, drive here, come all the way with all the family, and now he has an hour ride back to get to his team meetings. He's in a little over 30 hours, he's going to be taking the field for the Super Bowl. That is remarkable, a remarkable commitment. And yes. So Thomas might not hear us now, but I believe that one thing, whether we're Bronco fans, Panther fans, Niner, Raider fans, I think he has 1,600 new fans that will be rooting for him, playing with that broken arm. Also this morning we have some very special guests. Here today are several members of our United States Armed Forces who were wounded in action. These men and women are some of our most highly decorated soldiers who have served with honor and courage, all from the Semper Fi Fund. I know we have some other vets in our audience as well. Would you all give these folks a round of applause for their courage and their service to our country? The first two games, both won by BART STAR and the Green Bay Packers, I might add, were not actually called Super Bowls at the time. They were called the NFL AFL Championship game. Imagine trying to come out and say that every year. Oof. Anyway, it wasn't until year 3 that the game actually was given its iconic name. And a man who actually knows all about that and how it happened is with us this morning. Clark Hunt is the chairman and CEO of the Kansas City Chiefs, a team hopefully we might see in Super Bowl 51. Clark, can you come up here and join me real quick for some comments on those early days of the Super Bowl? So a lot of you are familiar with the name Lamar Hunt. If you're a football fan, you absolutely know who he is. Clark, your dad Lamar was one of the guys, and actually the guy that came up with the name Super Bowl. But I do understand he had a little help. Can you share that with us, please?
Sure. Well, my father in 1960 put together a group that started the American Football League. And for 5 or so years, the AFL and the NFL were rivals. Finally, in the spring of 1966, the two leagues agreed to merge. One of the first things that they had to do after the merger was figure out what they were going to do for a championship game. And my dad was sitting at a meeting with some of the other owners talking about the game, and one of the owners was confused about which game he was talking about, whether it was the conference finals or the championship game. And my dad said, the last game, you know, the Super Bowl. He just threw it out there. It literally came to his mind in that moment. Later, he would recall in asking why those words came to him, that his children had been given some Super Bowls by my mother, and we were playing with them around the house. Now, I was 1 year old, so I think I was probably teething on mine while my older siblings bounced them around the house. My dad was also a big fan of college football and had been to numerous bowl games, including 30-some-odd straight Cotton Bowls at that point. And I literally think he took the two words, super from Super Bowl and bowl from Cotton Bowl, and put them together, and that's how we ended up with the Super Bowl.
Boy, spectacular. Couldn't have come up with a better name. So your dad comes up with a name. How did the other owners and the league members respond to that?
Well, the other owners pretty quickly adopted it, and it leaked out to the media, and the media started using it in describing the game. But there was one key person in the league who didn't think it was very good, and that was Pete Rozelle, the commissioner of the NFL. He thought it lacked a certain sophistication, as he put it, and that's why the first two games were officially called the AFL-NFL World Championship, which is really catchy.
Exactly. Well, your dad was known as a visionary. Did he ever foresee how big the Super Bowl would eventually become?
After about Super Bowl 10, I recall my mother telling me that my dad had done an interview, and in that interview, he had said that, one day this is going to become the biggest sporting event in America, which was a big statement back then because the World Series, of course, was so important in the American sports landscape. But later on, as he approached seeing his 40th Super Bowl, which he and my mom always attended the Super Bowls together, and he made the first 40 before he passed away, he confided to my mom that he had no idea how big it would become.
Wow, spectacular. As a young man, your memories of being with your dad at the Chiefs games, going to Super Bowls, what's your best memory as a young man?
Well, my dad loved the pageantry of sports, but he also loved the fans and appreciated the fans. And at every Chiefs game, he would go tailgating before the game just to get a chance to spend some time with our great fans. And I got to tag along with him on that, and it was just so much fun seeing him interact with our fans and frankly just be a fan, which is what he was at heart. In terms of the Super Bowls, I mentioned that he and my mom attended the first 40 together, and probably my favorite memory was watching them kiss before the start of each game, just to celebrate the fact that they had made another Super Bowl together. And then he also loved coming to this breakfast. He got me started coming to this breakfast about 22, 23 years ago. And I can remember him standing at one of these breakfasts to rededicate his life to Christ, and that's something I'll never forget.
Clark, thanks so much for continuing the family legacy and for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Clark Hunt. Well, that first NFL-AFL championship game pitted Lamar Hunt's Chiefs against BART STARR's Packers. And did you know that the game was not even televised in Los Angeles? It was blacked out because it didn't sell out. I can't imagine Los Angeles fans not showing up for a game. Actually, had they shown up, as we all know up here, they would have left in the second quarter to beat the traffic. Well, it was actually broadcast at the time to the rest of the nation by both CBS and NBC. Pretty crazy how things have changed, isn't it? So tomorrow's game will be watched by more than 100 million people in the U.S. and in over 200 different nations. So what a collection of talent, of memories, of legends. This is spectacular. Coach, just being next to you scares me. Boy, what a treat for me. Jerry, Super Bowls 1 and 2. What was it like back then? Not only playing for BART STARR and the Green Bay Packers, but being a part of the early years, the legacy that has become the Super Bowl.
The first Super Bowl was kind of unknown. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what the Kansas City Chiefs were like. We didn't know exactly about the ball game. We'd played the Rams and the Cowboys in the playoffs, and we knew a lot about them. But I remember buying 4 tickets for my nephews, and they were $10 a piece. Big money back then, folks, big money. And they didn't show up. So I'm standing by the bus with 4 tickets, and I've got to get dressed, and I'm looking around, and I look over by the gate, and there's some kids over there. You guys want to go to the game? Yeah! So I gave the tickets to the kids, and they went to the game. So that wouldn't happen today, but that wouldn't happen at all.
Well, that was a great story, Jerry. Hey, Jerry, one of the things that I didn't know about you, and I thought I knew it all, you were the Packers kicker for a few years.
We had 36 players, and sometimes if you had the ability to play another position, you might be a little more valuable. And when the contracts came around, you might go from 8,000 to 9. I mean, you know, big time money. And
that is
and
really
so,
stepping it up.
Virtually all of our players were able to play another position, and Horning, of course, was a kicker. Boyd Dowler, Max McGee were kickers, and I was kind of a backup kicker. And I had a wonderful time in New York at Yankee Stadium. I kicked 3 field goals, an extra point that day, and a 40-mile-an-hour wind and about 10 below zero, another one of those wonderful fresh northern days that we seem to find along the way somewhere. So kicking made me a little more valuable.
Well, I should say, I think I can be safe in saying the biggest, toughest, meanest kicker in NFL history right there.
Well, I don't see many guards today kicking.
No, you don't. It's not a pretty sight. Roger, it's an honor to have you here with us today as well. Obviously, I'd mentioned I was a big Cowboy fan. The guy sitting next to you, you were his favorite player, I know, growing up. Talk about some of those years coming to the Cowboys as a lot of people might not know, as a 27-year-old rookie. You came out of the Naval Academy, you served your time, and the Cowboys had drafted you and had some unbelievable long-term vision. And now you come to a team and you're a rookie and you're 27 years old. What was that like?
Well, ironically, you know, with Clark up there, the Kansas City Chiefs drafted me also. I was a second classman, a junior at the Naval Academy. And I was eligible because I had spent 1 year in junior college, so I was eligible for the draft. So I was drafted by Dallas and Kansas City. And then Lamar came and talked to me after I graduated that if I ever played football again, would you play for Kansas City? And he said, and I said, well, Jimmy, I haven't been thinking about that. And he said, well, you're drafted by Dallas too, but we'd like to get, you know, if you sign, I'll pay you $500 a month and $10,000. And Marianne, my wife, and I, we didn't have anything, so I'm thinking $500 a month. That's more than I was getting in the Navy. I was getting like $450 in the Navy or something. and so I said, I got a hold of this Navy legal officer, and I said, "Am I allowed to do this? You know, they wanted to pay me this money, and I don't have to, you know, I don't have to do anything." And if I stay in the Navy past 4 years, they cut it off. But and so he said, so he checked. He said, "I'll, you know, look into it." He came back and said, "Hey, that's fine." He said, "But have you talked to the Cowboys?" And I said, "Well, I haven't talked to the Cowboys. They haven't called me." And he said, "Well, I'll give them a call." So he calls Gil Brandt. They're getting ready to play the Eagles in about 3 weeks, and he said, "Captain Borden, come on up to the game, and we'll talk to you." And so Captain Borden told him what the deal was, and he said, "Well, we'll match that." So Captain Borden calls me on the phone from Philadelphia and said, "The Cowboys will match." And I said, "Well, okay, let's go with Dallas." So I called Mr. Hunt back, and he said, "What the matter with you? I was just starting." But anyway, so I knew for 4 years I would be a Cowboy someday if I ever decided to play football again. And so I'm in the Navy watching Jerry with the quarterback sneak, BART STARR to the Ice Bowl. Ray Scott, it's minus 13 degrees here in Green Bay, and I'm thinking, oh man, I don't want to play in that stuff. And he said, that's without the wind chill factor. It's actually minus 40. So I really watched the Cowboys while I was in the Navy then.
Roger, I can't believe that you got drafted and they hadn't called you to let you know. It's just kind of like the NFL today.
Yeah.
Roger, maybe you could talk about those early 70s Cowboy teams and what you guys had that was so special, and obviously your relationship with Coach Landry and all the success that the team had, and you were the big part of that.
Well, the coach was a great guy. I mean, he was a great human being. His strength was preparation. He was an engineer. He was, you know, goals that are outstanding, reasonable, believable, achievable, measured. So he was, when you say Mike, he was just, preparation was the name of the game. And so he was a great coach and a great human being. And you know, talk about with seeing Mike there, it's, I mean, he is kind of scary, you know. And in Super Bowl VI, I get the MVP in Super Bowl VI because Dwayne Thomas wouldn't talk to anybody. I mean, you know, we had a great running game. Our defense was great, and you know, Bob Lilly's chasing Greasy all over the place. But Mike really was the one. He still feels, and he's right, because our first drive
we go down to the 6-yard line. We have this play action pass. I look to the corner to the tight end, and Dwayne Thomas ran a little flare. So I just took the snap, and it's a Super Bowl, the first drive, and I'm still nervous, so I just threw the ball out to Dwayne, and he got killed. So we kicked the field goal, and Mike was wide open. And because this is a breakfast, and we love the Lord, and I don't know if the Lord would forgive me if I told you what Mike said to me. So that was the beginning of the game, and then I threw a pass to him over the middle, and he dropped it. He came back to the huddle, and I said, "Nice catch, Mike." So we got back on track, and then later in the game, we have a tight end reverse. He gets knocked out of bounds literally on like the 6-inch line. So he should have scored there. And then I did hit him for a touchdown pass, so he's saying to me whenever I see him, I would have had 3 touchdowns in that game and won the MVP if you would have thrown me that first football. It really, Mike was an inspiration to our football team in 1971 when we won that first Super Bowl. He's a great friend, he was a great player, and he was a great coach, and it's fun being with you, Mike.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you. Good stuff, Roger. Coach, everybody knows you as coach, but they forget you're a Hall of Fame tight end. I've seen highlights of you catching the ball, just absolutely obliterating linebackers, defensive backs. You were the 5th pick of the draft by the Bears back in '61. Spent a lot of time there, heck of a career, got to the Cowboys and won a Super Bowl. Talk about the transition going from playing for the team that drafted you, going to a different organization, and some of those stories that Roger just shared. I mean, I hear you. I used to talk to my quarterback all the time about being open.
Well, I'll try to make it quick. If I would have been drafted by anybody but the Bears, I would have been a linebacker. That's a fact. So anyways, Hellis drafted me, said he's going to make me a tight end. Nobody knew what the hell a tight end was anyways. So then I was the first one they started throwing the ball to, because really the tight end was just another guy on the end of the line of scrimmage that blocked. So John Mackey came along next year. So the tight end became a little bit more important. We started throwing the ball to those guys. So, it was Coach Hellis and a guy named, I can't remember, Luke Johnsos, who was the offensive coordinator, who really created that position. We used to, you couldn't get off the line of scrimmage. You're lined up right next to the tackle, and then they get this linebacker from Green Bay would be killing you and pushing you down, Curry, and then we started flexing them out a little bit, and that's how we got off the line. And it was interesting. I said, "Coach, I can't get off. Can I move out?" "Yeah, go ahead. You're not blocking anybody." So I got off. But I want to say one thing. It's been a hell of a run. I thank God every day, but my life changed when I went to Dallas. It really did. It changed because it wasn't a personal game for me anymore. It was a team game. I became part of a great organization and a great team and a great, great man. Jerry played for Coach Lombardi, and I played against Lombardi's teams. But think about it. I was fortunate. I played against Lombardi's teams. I played for him in the Pro Bowl. I played for Coach Landry. I played for Coach Hellis. I coached against Coach Walsh. I coached against Coach Scholl. You think who's in football, and I've been blessed to be a part of that, a small part of that, and it's been great. And I've gone through the whole era when the 49ers were great, and this team was great, and the Giants were great. We played them all, so it was fun. So I just say, if it ended tomorrow, what a heck of a run. I've had a ball, but thank you all. It's been beautiful.
Yeah. Coach, thank you so much.
One more.
Jerry?
I was going to ask Mike to tell us about the time he knocked the fan cold.
We've all wanted to do that, Jerry.
Well, they don't have football in L.A. anymore, and I can tell you why. We're playing the Rams out there, and it's a very heated game. I mean, it's a close game. It's a heated game, and Deacon's on the other side, and he's saying things to me and firing me up, and so all of a sudden we're driving down and we're getting their territory, and all of a sudden everything stops. Here's this clown running around the football field. I mean, it wasn't a clown, it was a person. So he's running around, and I'm watching this guy, and I'm going, what the heck? So all of a sudden he came past our huddle, and I went, boom! They carted them off. Now here's the bad part about it. You should have read the articles in the paper the next day. I was a brutal man for knocking this guy on his ass. I can't figure.
That started your love affair with the media. Well, from one tight end to another, Ben Watson, we know you got to get rolling here this morning. Ben actually is a finalist for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award.
Thank you.
But he was committed to being a part of the breakfast, but we promised we'd get him out of here before 9:30. So, Ben, your story's a little different when it comes to Super Bowl. First round pick of the Patriots, premier tight end in the league, but in your Super Bowl, you were injured and had to watch from the sidelines. How was that? How tough was that watching your teammates do something that you'd always wanted to do and be a part of as a young man?
Well, first of all, I am. Look up here, all these guys with gold jackets, and then look at me. I'm like, what's going on? I love the 49ers and the Bears going up, so I'm like in heaven right now. This is amazing. But I was involved in 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots. In 2004, we were coming off a win before. It was the back-to-back of the Super Bowls. And then again in 2007 when you go 18 straight and then somehow lose in the last game. I'm not hurt about it. I'm okay. I've been in counseling. But in 2004, I get drafted, and I'm excited to go up there and play, and I end up tearing my ACL and missing most of that year. And as you remember, we went on to win the Super Bowl against the Eagles that year down in Jacksonville, Florida. And it was really, really tough for me to not be able to perform and to play in the game. When you come in as a rookie, you have so many expectations for yourself also that the media gives you and for your team. You want to come in and prove that you're worth being on that team and contribute. And then going through that whole ordeal, having to go through rehab, being up in Boston with 80 inches of snow when you're from South Carolina. Well, it was horrible. Going through all that, and then not being able to play in the game was tough. And so I go to the game. My wife, who was my fiance then, my family was there, and I was kind of a jerk to everybody, I would say. I wasn't happy. I was upset. We did all the media day. We did that. We did the team picture. We did that. Everything, all the stuff that you do around the Super Bowl, I wasn't happy to be there because I couldn't play in the game. I was really being quite selfish. And so I get my ring, and I didn't really wear it too often, and didn't feel like I had earned the right to wear the ring. And then after a few years, I started to realize that, you know what, I'm a champ. I'm a champion. This is a team game. I couldn't perform in the game, but it's a team game, and God really taught me a lot through that whole ordeal. Now looking back on it, I can appreciate some of the lessons that he taught me. But one thing I'll just share with you really quickly that he taught me is that even though I didn't perform by my own merit, I can still stand before you and say, I am a Super Bowl champion. I can wear my ring with pride. And what God really taught me through the whole thing is that that's the same thing he does for us. We're sitting here at a Super Bowl prayer breakfast, and we're talking about football. Awesome. We're hearing these great football stories from these legends. Awesome. But the bottom line, what we really want you to hear is the fact that you too can be champions in Christ, not because of anything that you do, but because of his grace through his son, Jesus Christ. And so, that's what he taught me through the whole ordeal. And it was hard. It was hard because all of us want to earn our salvation, number one, before him, but also want to earn the right to stand before our peers and have all the accomplishment that we get. But it was really humbling for me to have guys like Tom Brady go out there and say, you know what, don't worry about it. We're going to get you that ring.
Ben, thank you so much for sharing. Wow. Well, we could have let you go on and on, but in my ear, they're saying Ben needs to go 1 minute ago. So we're going to let you get going to the award. Best of luck. We're rooting for you, and thank you. We're thrilled and honored that you were up here with us today.
Yes, sir. And
go
I'm
get him, buddy.
And all you guys, I want an autograph. I got a football back there. If y'all can autograph. All this for me, Thanks, guys. God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Watson. Now go win that award. And way to represent tight ends. Certainly, I think one of the apparent things throughout today's breakfast is how bright and sophisticated the tight end position is. And so we've got two quarterbacks. You 2.5. I'll give you a half, Coach. Coach, people don't know that you were a star quarterback in college, University of Minnesota, got drafted by the Steelers, and I remember thinking that at the time I was trying to drudge up that Dungy, the Dungy-Bradshaw quarterback controversy deal, but we couldn't get it going. But when you got to the Steelers, they had a pretty decent quarterback. They moved you to the defensive side of the ball, safety. How were those early years? And with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you obviously won a Super Bowl as a player. And how did their organization maybe shape your views going forward when you got into coaching?
It was great for me because just like these guys talked about playing for Coach Landry, Coach Hallis, I played for Coach Knoll, and there wasn't a better role model for me. I remember the very first meeting. I'm 21 years old, think I'm going to be a quarterback, and they said, no, you're not going to be a quarterback. So I'm sitting there with my notebook out, getting ready to hear from this coach who's already won 2 Super Bowls, to have him tell me how, first of all, how am I going to make the team, and then how we're going to win another Super Bowl. And the very first thing he says in the meeting, and you played for Coach the same way, and you heard the same thing. Welcome to the National Football League. You're now getting paid to play football, so that makes it your profession. But football is not your life. Don't mistake football for your life. If you think it's your life, you'll leave this game disappointed. And I'm writing this down, and I'm saying, wait a minute, football is not your life. Because up to then, it had been my life. And he lived that out for us and taught us how to play well and all that, but he taught us about living and doing things the right way and being part of the community, and playing for him, playing for Mr. Rooney, it changed who I was as a person.
Coach, spectacular. Being the first African-American coach to win a Super Bowl, what did that mean to you? And transitioning into the coaching profession, such a special thing to be a part of and to be known for. Clearly, you've got tons of experience, but not only that, you're a great communicator. I know the guys that have played with you have enjoyed not only having the coach-player relationship, but a personal relationship. You're a leader in the facility. How has that been for you, going from the player side to the coach side?
It was different. I played 3 years, and what I didn't know, the Lord was really preparing me to be a coach. I couldn't figure out, when I came to Pittsburgh, why did they not want me to play quarterback? Well, I ended up changing, playing defense. I knew nothing about defense at the time. I learned. Now I'm at a championship team. My 3rd year, I get traded to the 49ers. Coach Walsh's first year, we won 2 games. My buddies are back playing for another Super Bowl. Why am I on this team that's winning 2 games? Well, God was preparing me and took me through all these things. And so when I'm coaching years later, yeah, I played on the championship team. I played on a rebuilding team. I played offense, played defense. And God really, mapped it out for me. So I had a chance. And because of the guys I played for, Coach Knoll and Coach Walsh, that it wasn't just teaching them to be better players, but helping them be better men that was important. Coach, I will have to tell one story about Roger Staubach.
Oh, yeah, give us the Roger story.
My first mistake in Super Bowl, I played in Super Bowl 13, big mistake before the game. These guys talked about playing the 71 Super Bowl. I was in 11th grade watching that game. So now, Super Bowl 13, and Roger Staubach is the quarterback. He's still playing, and it's my 2nd year. We had played them twice the year before in the regular season and the preseason, and he threw me an interception in both games. So now we're warming up before the Super Bowl, and I said, Mr. Staubach, you always throw me an interception. It sure would be nice if you throw me an interception today in the Super Bowl and help me be famous.
Coach, you're a trash talker.
I was asking him to throw me one. And I think he got mad. He doesn't usually get mad, but I think he got mad at that because he put up 31 points on us.
I'm not too crazy about the Steelers, so it's It's like playing the friggin' Taliban or something, you know. No, they were tough guys. They were a great football team, though. We had some tough games against the Steelers. Just bring back bad memories. This is a breakfast with the Lord here this morning.
Hey, we can laugh. That was a good one. That was great, Roger. Now I'm going to try to talk to Steve, and I don't know if he can compose himself.
I thought the Cowboys were the Taliban.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
He totally confused me.
Hey, number 8, Hall of Famer, MVP of Super Bowl. Give me your best Super Bowl memory for the local fans.
Before I said, we've been together a long time. And I'm sitting there with Trent Dill for the star of the Super Bowl 35 right here. We were talking
Trent, come on, wave to everybody. Wave to the fans. Hey, do you guys go everywhere together now that you're on TV together? Trent has replaced me as your best friend.
Now that you abandoned me, I have to have a good friend with me all the time.
Yeah, that is true. It was actually nice to transition to Trent.
Roommate for 13 years, and Super Bowl night before, everyone got our own room, which is unusual for for a away game. Usually had a roommate. Brent was loving it because he could stay up and watch whatever he wanted. He could, I didn't bother him. I had a way of irritating him and causing him some grief. And so it got to be about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. They had bed check, and I couldn't. It was just so quiet, And I had this game that was coming up that could, be big, and I decided, I'm not doing this. I grabbed my mattress literally over my back and walked down the hall and knocked on Brent's door. He opens the door and I'm like, buddy, I gotta come in. So I put it on the floor next to him, and he goes, oh yeah, whatever. And Brent could sleep. He could fall asleep right now if you said, if you said his key word, he'd go, So he fell back asleep, and in 15 seconds, he's snoring. I'm like, everything's great now, And I had the best night's sleep for the Super Bowl. I woke up ready to roll, and I don't tell that story often because it's a little embarrassing, but it shows you what kind of a buddy I had.
Yeah, it's just if you would have just listened to me when I came back to the huddle and said I was open.
Well, it was the 4,000th time. I just felt like, little wolf there,
Thanks. So, having the Super Bowl here in the Bay Area, you were one of the guys that was a fan of the game. I mean, all these guys were heroes of yours and mine. We talked about them. We loved the game growing up. What is it like to have the Super Bowl here in the Bay Area where you've got some of the guys, you're sharing the stage with some of the guys that you grew up admiring and still admire?
Well, it gets surreal at some level. Roger was my hero. Posters were up in my bedroom. I remember staring at the poster. At details about how he held the ball. One of the pictures had him holding the ball and had a picture of his hand, and I would look at the ball and hold it, and his thumb's down here, and then his fingers up there, and when Roger spoke, in an interview, when he played, I was going to be Roger Staubach, and I was going to do everything that Roger did.
If you were really committed, I have to interrupt, you'd use your other hand, lame-o.
I'm like Phil Mickelson. You can look at it in opposite, and it works perfect, right? Because I could look at the picture, and it worked just right. So, but I think, and I grew up. That was, I would have done anything that Roger did, and the influence was incredible. And so it's surreal for me to think about Super Bowls and the history of Super Bowls. I remember when I had not met him in my life. The first time I met him was at Candlestick Park in January 1993 when we were playing the championship game against the Cowboys. Now, Joe Montana's on the field, that year he didn't play, I played. I was the MVP of the NFL, and now I had to go win the Super Bowl. And in San Francisco, if you didn't win the Super Bowl, it didn't matter what else you won. If you didn't win the Super Bowl, it was, Vallejo, Nut Tree, Sacramento, Reno. And then you get the downslope out of Donner Pass and just keep going, And so I walk out to do the midfield, and it's Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmett Smith are the captains, I'm walking out as the captain for the team to do the coin flip, and they walk out Roger Staubach to be the honorary captain. I mean, I still to this day, like, Mr. Staubach, my name's Steve Young. You were my hero, and I watched you and grow up with you and everything you did, and I wanted to be like you and everything that was going on, you know. And Roger's like, well, we need to flip the coin. And to this day, him coming out of we lost that game because Roger Staubach was the honorary captain and messed me up.
Got in your head.
We would have 6 Super Bowls if Roger hadn't come out. But having it here at Super Bowl 50, it's like a convention, and it's really fun to be with friends and new friends and people that you've seen for many years. Coach Ditka, I got to know through TV now, and you think, I'm sitting next to Coach Ditka, I can't believe it. I'm sitting next to Bill Parcells. These guys that you just couldn't imagine ever being close. And I just close this story up. I go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They have the Ray Nitschke lunch on Friday afternoon. The only people allowed in the room are Hall of Famers. It's a very sacred moment. My first year, I'm being inducted, and so the lunch is about the new guys. And everybody gets sit down, and then before Ray Nitschke ran it, but now that he's passed away, there's others. But I was milling around, and I was like, I'm nervous, and there's 150 Hall of Famers, and every name is every great player you've ever heard of in your whole life. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I finally get seated down, I sit down, I look to my right, Roger Staubach sitting right there. Do you think, I was like tingly and almost wanted to cry, and I couldn't believe it. It's like, you can't, this whole thing is surreal. It's still surreal. I'm sitting next to Trent Dilfer. I mean, it doesn't get any better. I mean, this is incredible. I don't know what to say about what it's like to be, Super Bowl 50 and around these guys.
Well, hey,
I'm going to ask.
Roger, sure, go ahead.
I want to ask my wife, can we adopt Steve, Marianne?
You don't realize you actually basically have.
Hey, Roger, let me just give you a heads up. High maintenance. I'm going to ask Bart Starr Jr. to come on up. Bart, the reason that we're here this morning, and these men are here, not only for the breakfast, but they all love your dad. Your dad not only is a Hall of Famer on the field, off the field, a man of great character, integrity. He's been a part of this breakfast for years since the inception. Obviously agreed to have it, the award named after him. Suffered a stroke here a couple years ago now. Everybody here wants to know how he's feeling. I get goosebumps thinking about his rehab and following up with his rehab and how he showed up for the retirement of Brett Favre's jersey Lambeau earlier in the year. Bring everybody up to speed on...
Is this working okay?
There you go. On how your dad's doing.
Thank you so much. What a thrill it is to be up here with all of these gentlemen. I think Dad will be feeling a lot better when I call him and my mom in about an hour or so and talk about back to Thomas Davis for just a minute, then we'll get to Dad. Because I think what you saw when Thomas gave his speech was the distinction between accomplishments and legacy. Now, if you were to do a Google search on Thomas right now, you'd find out about his stellar career at University of Georgia and what he's done and how he has overcome so many injuries, 3 ACLs and so forth and so on. Those are remarkable accomplishments, but you could tell listening to his voice and hearing his emotions that what matters to him most is his legacy and his relationship to God and what he's able to do in terms of counting his blessings and transferring those to those who are truly in need. That's going to cheer up both my parents more than you can imagine. It was the fall of 2014 when Dad did suffer some strokes, and he also had a heart attack and numerous seizures. He was not expected to survive. His strength flows from what someone earlier referenced, the combination of faith and family and friends. And I'll give you a couple of examples about that, if I may. After he had recovered initially from his strokes, he suffered a very serious bronchial infection His temperature was so high and his heart rate was racing beyond belief. And the doctors frankly told my mom, said, you need to prepare for the worst. He's not going to make this. One of our dear friends is here in the audience tonight, Leanne Nelson, who has been with our organization for about 16 years. And she's become very, very instrumental in my dad's cognitive therapy recovery. We went to the hospital that night, and he did not look like he would survive. And it was just the two of us. And I looked at Leanne, and she looked at me, and I said, okay, what are we going to do? We needed to do something that would resonate with him. He could not respond at all. And so we offered some prayers, and then following those prayers, we just all held hands, and I looked down at Dad, and I said, Dad, you are going to tomorrow make a miraculous recovery. We have so much faith in you, and we know you can hear this. And he literally began coming back despite what the doctors said was unlikely to occur. I should state it correctly. The same thing happened when he needed a medical treatment, adult stem cell therapy, to try to help boost his system. You have to inject this. And he was quite agitated and was unwilling to listen to the doctors and nurses, because stroke victims get nervous. They don't understand what is taking place. Even those who are well-intentioned, who are trying to help them, they have fear. And they wonder, why are you touching me? Why are you moving me? And so forth and so on. And Leanne, one more time, had a brilliant idea. She said, let's reach deep inside, and I know what would calm him. And she recited the Lord's Prayer. And it was amazing. I want you to meet her sometime to let her tell you the story about how he immediately relaxed, allowed the doctors to do what they needed to do, and again got back on the road to recovery. His faith has been extraordinary through this period. And Coach, I remember in one of your books, you cited one of the important biblical passages about remembering that we're all different branches, but we come from the same vine. And Dad remembers that so much, that we're all one. All of you out here have family members who have gone through numerous challenges, not necessarily strokes, but maybe it was a stroke, or maybe it was Alzheimer's or cancer or something out there. And there is something deep inside of each of us that we've seen where when you strip away some of the things that my dad used to be able to do and is trying to regain now, what do you get at the core? You get what he's all about, which is the strength he derives from his relationship with God. That matters more than anything else. And we're so grateful for everyone's prayers over the many, many years. He is now recovering from a broken hip. The hip is healed, and we're about to start the next leg on his journey. If he had been in the sort of condition that he was in Thanksgiving when we made that appearance in Green Bay at halftime for the Packers-Bears game, today, as he was then, he would be so honored to be among all of you right now. And he will be next year when we're in Houston. I'm absolutely convinced of that. He's recovering. I want to tell you one other thing that's important about him and his faith, and I hope all of you will think about this. One of the last things that comes back when someone has aphasia, which is the difficulty communicating, and that's quite typical when someone has had serious strokes. It's not that you don't want to communicate. It's not that you don't want to express your love for your fellow man and your friends and for your Savior. Not at all. It's that sometimes you just struggle getting it out. One of the things I recall him doing throughout my life, I remember every single day, he believed it was important for men to honor their wives by turning to the New Testament and say, love them unconditionally and revere them. And he manifested that by writing to my mom a special note to her every single day. Now, he cannot write those notes anymore. He will someday. He cannot do that. And I'd like everyone in here, man or woman, particularly the men in the audience, ask yourself right now, how long has it been since you have reached out to your wife, your girlfriend, to just a friend, but especially if it is your wife, and let her know, whether it is an actual handwritten note or an email or a text or some sort of verbal communication. I think the greatest lesson that we can learn from the way that I've watched my dad conduct himself over his 62 years with my mom is that he never missed an opportunity to express to her how important she was in his life. And right now, thank you. Each of us today has that chance. Now, oftentimes our attitude is, we'll have another opportunity, we can do it next week, next month, next year. Do you know that? We're only given today. So I would simply encourage you, do not miss an opportunity to tell your loved ones how special they are in your eyes and in the eyes of God. And if you do that, I think that we will walk away from here much, much better in the aggregate. And thanks to each of you for the prayers on behalf of Mom and Dad. It has strengthened them more than you know, and I cannot wait till we can all gather again.
Great. Bart, thank you so much. You know, all these men have a special relationship and admiration for your dad. Jerry, you were his teammate. Can you share just last thoughts on
there's
Bart?
a story that's been percolating in my mind about the day Bart became our leader. And there was a moment in history where it turned on a dime. And Bart was a quiet guy. He was a private guy. He was not a rah-rah guy. He was not a loud guy. And a lot of people mistook that for being a little soft. And there was a feeling around the league that maybe Bart was a little soft. And we're playing this guy's orangutans down in Chicago. It always seems to happen in Chicago. But Bart threw a long pass down the sidelines, and my defensive tackle turned around and was watching the ball. I'm watching the ball. Bart's watching the ball. Bill George, their middle linebacker, he's not watching the ball. He's coming. He takes about a 5-yard run, and he cocks perfectly and hits Bart in the mouth with a forearm and splits his lip up into his nose. I mean, just really, and knocks him back about 5 yards. And he said, "That ought to take care of you, Starr, you bleep, 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 bleep." And Bart got up and said, "This is the first time bleep was ever used in professional football." Bart got up and said, "Bleep you, Bill George, we're coming after you." And he is bleeding like a water hose running down his front of his jersey. And he really he was cut way up into his nose. And I said, "Bart, you better get to the sidelines and get sewed up. You're bleeding like a stuck hog." He said, "Shut up and get in the huddle." Yes, sir. So he took us down the field about 8 or 9 plays and bleeding all the way, and then went to the sidelines, and we weren't as delicate as the boys today, so they just laid him down on the bench and sewed him up right there on the field, patted him on the backside and said, "Go get him." So Martin talked a little funny for a little while because he had this big lip. But that day was the day that Bart Starr became our leader.
Yep. Jerry, great story. Wow. Hey, we'd love to get a quick comment from everybody else before we head back to the table about Bart Starr. Steve.
In the last few years and helped him raise money for his great children's charity in Green Bay, and Bart Jr. and Cherry have become very close friends. They've come out and supported me at my foundation. We've become late friends in life, and that's another spine-tingling moment for me, is to say that Bart Starr is a friend of mine. Just saying it makes me feel phenomenal. He still writes me the handwritten letters that he's written everybody for thousands of years. You know, just thank you, Steve, for inviting me. You're a class act. And I'm like, Bart, you're the class. We're following you. We're on your shoulders. And he'll never totally accept that, but that's the fact. We're all kind of walking on Bart's shoulders.
Thanks, Steve. Roger. You got a...
Well, the very first game that I had a chance to play in was against the Green Bay Packers, and it was an exhibition game in 1969. And
I was a pretty decent runner, so I was running down the field, and I was going to try to make a move on this linebacker named Ray Nitschke, and so I was, instead of going out of bounds, I made this move, and that was my first concussion in the National Football League. But I played against Bart, so it was a thrill for me to say that I got a chance to really play against BART STARR because he was my hero. I really liked Johnnie Unitas when I was at the Naval Academy with Baltimore. Then it became Bart. And, you know, I'm old, so I'm talking, I feel kind of bad. Bart's older than me. So and then when I retired, he and I did some business things together. And so I got to know he and Cherry real well and got a picture in my office with Marianne and I and Bart and Cherry that I'm really proud of. So he was a hero to me as far as a quarterback.
Roger, thank you. Coach, what do you got for us? I know you got a lot of stories.
Well, you know, Grantland Rice once said, class is a hard thing to define. Could be the lift of a thoroughbred's hoof, the swing of a slugger's bat, or I forget the last one. But you know what? Once you see class, you never forget it. And BART STARR was class on and off the field, and that's what's important.
Thanks, Coach. Coach Dungy, finish it up for us.
I think for me, being in high school, junior high, when BART STARR played and watching him and seeing how excellent he played on the field, I played the same position. I was like Steve, has some look at these great players and emulate them. But then to get to meet him later on as I got into the league and understand that you could be excellent and be a good person and a great man and honor the Lord and honor your family and be the best at what you did. I think that was the legacy of BART STARR.
Ladies and gentlemen, legends right here.
All right, so the Super Bowl breakfast has just ended. I'm here with New Orleans Saints linebacker James Anderson. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So how was it, your experience being here at the Super Bowl breakfast? What was your favorite part about it? You know, seeing a fellow linebacker, Thomas Davis, receive the BART STARR Award?
You know, I think it was great, man. I'm really happy for Thomas. I played with him in Carolina, so it's really happy to see the success he's having and the impact he's able to make. And I think the favorite part for me was just seeing all those legends and hearing the stories of football from years past and realizing that those are some of the same stories that we have now in the locker room. So it's pretty cool.
So what do you think about that story about BART STARR when, you know, he got his lips split up to his nose and they kind of made a little dig at players nowadays being kind of soft because they would never get stitched up right there on the bench or whatever. What did you think about that, being a current player?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's about being soft. I think the medical industry has improved a little bit over the last year, so it's a little more sanitary to go actually get cleaned up when you get stitched up now. So I think it's more just to player safety.
So before we started the broadcast, we talked a little bit about your weekend. So you said you're working off 3 hours of sleep, right? But you're just going off adrenaline. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, you know what? The Super Bowl is a great time to get out in the community to do things, whether it's interviews, whether it's giving back, whether it's panels. I hosted at the gospel celebration last night. So there's a ton of things to do, and I'm really enjoying myself.
So are you willing to tell us here, you know, if there's a specific team that you're hoping wins tomorrow?
Well, you know, the great thing about being a player is I know players for both teams, so I can celebrate a great, well-fought game, and you know, I look forward to the guys that earn the right to be there to have a good time.
Absolutely. All right, well, you heard it here first with James Anderson. Thank you so much for stopping by with us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Absolutely. All right.
Hi, I'm Nico Brown. I live in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. So you came a long way out here to support who? Who are you supporting?
Carolina Panthers.
Absolutely, the Carolina Panthers. So I'm assuming that that's who you think is going to win the Super Bowl, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. And so you're wearing a Cam Newton jersey here, right? So that means you must know how to dab, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you do a dab for us real quick on the screen right now? All right, ready? We'll do it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Everybody's wrapping up to go. Everybody's full, ready to enjoy the rest of the weekend and get ready to watch the big game tomorrow. So you've seen it here first. Congratulations again to Thomas Davis for winning the BART STAR Award. And we had an excellent time seeing all the legends share one stage together. Enjoy the Super Bowl, guys. Go Broncos!